And we based it on departmental experiences. We have really good presenters today that have experience with this methodology. And therefore, for us at the school, it is very important in the way that we deliver learning that there is a possibility that we can move from theory to practice and to demonstrate how lean can be applied in everyday public service contexts. And we have those experiences in the presenters today. Ultimately, the session aims to inspire departments to begin or strengthen their lean journeys and embed these tools into planning, implementation, and service delivery improvements. On that note, colleagues, I'm going to ask my colleague Bongani to set the scene for us, and after that, I will introduce all our speakers. Thank you, Bongani.
Hi, Denise. It seems like Bongani is having... Oh, here he is. His sound is back now. Thanks, Bongani. You can unmute.
Thank you, Bongani.
Thank you very much, Dr. Miller, for that background to this webinar. I think you captured it very well. I would like to take this moment to introduce the speakers to this webinar. And our first presenter today will be Dr. Sisane, who will be speaking about how understanding lean methodology and tools and their application in the public service. And that will be followed by Mr. Mdabe, who's going to speak about lessons from successful implementation in government departments, and also Ms. Augustus on our lean journey and practical application in the Western Cape Government Department of Economic Development. And Ms. Dansai, who's going to speak about the case study on the journey with lean management heritage in the Western Cape. And Ms. Abrahams will present the case study on the department's e-financial manual that was designed using the principles of lean management for operational efficiency. And I can't move the slides anymore. Let me just...
Bongani, are you sharing your presentation?
Yeah, and that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
No, I'm not sharing the presentation. Okay, thank you. Back to you, Program Director.
Thank you so much, Bongani. Colleagues, we have the biographies of all our speakers. I will post that in the chat so that we do not spend our time to go through that, but just to rest assured that we have real experts presenters today. And when I went through their biographies, I was really heartened by the fact that the presentations are based on practices. So it's not just about theory that we're going to talk about today. And so I invite all of you to please pose questions, and really hardcore questions to the presenters, because at the end of the day, we as a collective want to make sure that we just weed out all the waste within government so that we can focus on real service delivery. The way that we will run the program, colleagues, is that we will provide the first 3 speakers with 20 minutes each to make their presentation, starting with Dr. Sasani. And then we will allow for a 20 minutes question and answers, and Mentha will field your questions in the Q&A as you post it, but we would also allow you to raise your hand and to pose your questions. After that, we will then take the last 2 speakers, Ms. Danse and Ms. Abram, and they will make their presentations to also for 20 minutes each. And after them, we will again have a round for questions and answers. I hope that the way that we've structured the program will optimize your learning experience. I will then also switch off my video now and ask the other speakers to close their videos, and then we will start with Dr. Sasani. Thank you, Dr. Sasani. Over to you.
Thank you, Program Director, and morning colleagues. It is an honor to be invited to participate in this webinar. Here to share my experiences. So I've got a lot of case studies that I can share if time allows, and also I'll take you through my 100-page presentation. I'm just joking there. I know I have 20 minutes, so I'll try to really focus on the key things. Okay, I hope you can all see my screen. Can I just please get an
Yes,
indication?
we can see your presentation, and you can carry on, Dr. Sasani.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My focus is not case studies. It's really theory. To understand what this lean is all about. What is it? Is it a thinking? Is it a methodology? Is it a toolbox? That is what we're going to focus on this morning. And in terms of the items that I'm going to cover, we cannot talk about lean without talking about Six Sigma, and also without not talking about Lean Six Sigma, because that is what in industry a lot of people are focusing in there. It's when the two methodology merge where the value is maximized. I will show you what I mean by that. We will look at the lean tools and techniques, things that can be applied without any, major training or any certification, just a mindset and also, a change on looking or focusing on the right things. We'll talk more about the terms and concepts, and also the lean triad, and also just to end this what we call lean teams. If we were to start to organize ourselves into that, we can look into that. So colleagues, allow me to quickly delve into this Lean Six Sigma methodology. We look at what is made up of, and remember the focus is on lean, so that is what we're going to focus on. We'll also show you the principles and also what we call the lean tempo. So looking at Six Sigma, already said it. So that is a fusion.
Dr. Sasani, I'm so absolutely sorry to interrupt, but can you just speak up a little bit or increase your volume on your mic, please, Dr. Sasani?
My volume is at max. I hope you can hear me now.
That sounds a little bit better. Thank you so much.
Right.
Sorry to interrupt, eh?
Not a problem. So Six Sigma, we're talking about those are two different techniques, two different origins and different focus. But when they are meshed together, that is where you get maximum value in terms of implementing this tool. So we'll explain again when we go into the detail of what lean is. But when the two are meshed, that is where we have Lean Six Sigma as a methodology. And then the two methodologies will definitely also they bring their own different tool, what I call a toolbox, and techniques that are also meshed. And then when you have the two, the combination, that is what a lot of organizations out there are implementing. The two methodologies can work very well together. And as I already indicated, that is what a lot of companies are merging them. I can also share in terms of how they merge the two. And also training does not have to focus on one, but also on the combination. Let's look at the two methodologies in detail. I already indicated the origins are different. So Lean was originated in Toyota in what is today referred to as the TPS, which is your total production system. So Toyota did not have a lot of resources in terms of people and money at the time, and they had to work with the bare minimum to make things work. And that is where the concept of Lean came in to say, what is it that we can do with the little that we have? And the focus was on eliminating waste and smoothing the process flow, thereby cutting a lot of costs. Six Sigma, instead, it was developed in Motorola, and its focus, the main focus is reducing variation and defects. So Six Sigma says, if the process, nothing changes, I must get the same input every time. If you go to a KFC, it doesn't matter whether it's in the middle of the month or month end, the quality and the taste must be the same. So that is where Six Sigma comes in terms of variations and also ensuring that there are no defects. And the two methodologies combined, again, focusing on what do we really mean by Lean. Remember I said we're trying to reduce time from the time the order was received up until the customer receive their product. It really reduced a focus on reducing that delivery process, the time that it takes to produce a product. And I'm not only restricting this, or it's not restricted to only product, but also service. So if our turnaround time, for example, today is a full month, by the application of Lean methodology, we are able to reduce the turnaround time significantly so by eliminating a lot of things that are not necessarily required on the process. Some of the ways we'll talk about this in detail is rework, reducing rework, and the main focus, which is what comes with Lean, is what does the customer say. Again, looking further to the methodology, it's very important when you talk about waste. Waste is always defined from the viewpoint of the customer. The customer can be internal. This is now your departments or colleagues. But mostly the key customer that we focus on is an external that we serve, the one that pays for the services or for the product. It's also important that when we do that, we've identified the customer, we identify the value stream. So these are the activities that are required to add value onto whatever we are producing, or to produce a product or a service, whatever is required to. And then we revisit that and identify, are there any opportunities of reducing waste onto the process? In terms of the value stream, we have what we call the before and after, or the SEs or the to be. So once the exercise of Lean waste elimination is done, you go back and you look at your value stream and see what has been reduced in terms of turnaround time. It is always about seeking perfection in terms of what the organization is producing for the customer. We already touched on the origin of Lean. You can see it's very old, in the late 1940s. So that is where this principle, the Toyota production system was initiated. However, the Lean, as we call it, the concept itself, it was only in 1988 where it was coined by John. It was part of his master thesis where it came about, and it became known as a universal. It became universally defined as Lean, and also the focus on waste. There's also what we call Lean thinking. Lean thinking is all about, remember I said most of these things, when you talk about methodology, we're talking about something that has to do with a mindset shift. In terms of changing how you do things after you have learned something. So that is what, when you go through training here, you pick it up a lot in terms of Lean thinking. It's all about the culture itself that is required to keep on focusing on removal of waste. So The breakdown or the makeup of Lean is in three. There is the philosophy, and then we also have tools and techniques. And I've been requested to focus more on the tools and techniques. These are the things that you can take home or take away today and start implementing. And also the methodology itself. The methodology, it allows us to, continually, that's the culture part, where we are able to keep on reducing or removing waste on our processes. Okay, so this is the famous Lean temple, and on top, that is the ultimate objective or outcome to remove waste. And at the bottom, in terms of the foundations, we already touched on this. It's built on the tools, techniques, and the methodology. There's also the philosophy, how we empower people, and the transparency, and also the principles that are then applied. And the pillars that hold this temple together is the processes, the business processes. Remember, we are removing waste from the business processes. And we feel it or we pick it up in our delivery time, and also, we deliver that product or that service to the customer, which is our supply chain. So these two hold up the temple, and then at the top, the ultimate goal is to remove waste. I don't want to focus much on Six Sigma because really today's focus is on Lean. I'm going to skip this. And let's talk about the key item in terms of Lean, which is who are we trying to satisfy with this? Waste is defined from the viewpoint of the customer. Anything that, according to the customer, does not add value is what we call waste. So let's look at how do we keep or make the customer happy. So any customer, be it looking for product or service, it's only three things that they are looking for. The first one is minimum variation. Remember, I gave an example of KFC. Regardless of the time of the month, you would want consistent taste and consistent texture. The quick delivery, if you use again the KFC concept, on the drive-through or whether it's a walk-in, it doesn't matter again the time of the month. The customer expects that their order should be, the delivery time should be quick. And we don't want to see fluctuations. They don't want to see fluctuations on the cost. So that is what any customer would want, and any customer will come back for the same product or the same service if we maintain these three key items: minimum variation, quality delivery, and also reasonable cost. And to maintain this, there's a lot that needs to happen that an organization will need to do to ensure that the three can be maintained. So these three things that I just highlighted is what is called the voice of customer, or the voice of the customer rather. We'll also share on the next slides, you'll see there's also what we call the voice of the business. Okay, on the thinking itself, remember we spoke about the Lean thinking, and we said Lean thinking is the culture that comes with the organization that wants to implement Lean to remove waste and also to increase efficiency and to smooth those process flows. Lean thinking says that there's always a simpler and a better way of doing things. So every day the strive is to find that simple and better way of doing things. And it also says look at continuous drive to identify and eliminate waste. So it is not a once-off exercise. So it's always so that is where it becomes a culture that we continuously identify any wastage in our processes and try to remove them, and any roadblocks that can hinder improvement in the production processes. And it empowers employees to drive improvement. So that is one of the key things. the belief here in the philosophy is that the person who is closest are the ones that know where the improvement opportunities are. If you ask someone on the shop floor, they're the ones who can tell you that if we could eliminate this, it will make it much easier or much quicker. So that is why the heavy reliance on the colleagues that are on the floor to identify this waste is not a top-down where management will come and say or identify these opportunities, rely on the colleagues on the floor to do that. And also the application of those tools and techniques, it value if the focus is on the entire organization, looking into applying those tools and techniques. And I will show you as we go along the presentation. You'll see that some of these tools is not difficult. Remember, we're not talking innovation, we're not talking automation. It's just changing the mindset in terms of how to do some of these things. And then once all these things are done, remember the voice of the customer, that we look at those three items that the customer is looking for. Once we apply this lean thinking, it's much easier to ensure that we continually deliver on those three items. So I'm going to move on to look at the lean terms and concepts. These are some of the language that we speak out there, so you can pick up. You might have heard about the 5S. These are some of the techniques, Pokayoki, and then there's what we call SMED. I've got more on this or more of this that we'll also share as we go along. Some of the tools or techniques that we talk about is that is also common is what we call the Gemba. Gemba is nothing other than the workplace itself. We'll also talk about the Kaizen and the Hoshin. This is your policy deployment. So these are some of the techniques and concepts that you might have come across whenever they was on the lean methodology.
Dr. Suzani, you have got 5 minutes.
Okay. Let me then quickly talk about the waste. We spoke about the voice of customer and the voice of business. So I just want to show you how do you identify a value add and non-value add. So the key question that we ask is, does the customer, whatever we're doing, adds value to the end customer? If the answer is yes, that is an automatic value add and it satisfies what we already discussed as voice of customer. If the answer is no, we ask a follow-up question and say, does it contribute to business effectiveness? If it does, if it does not, that is a non-value add. It's exactly the waste that we're talking about. But if it does, it could be that it's a business waste for business, things that are important, you know, like legal things that needs to be and policy things that needs to be in place, including training. That does not necessarily directly add value to the customer, but is value to the business to ensure that they function correctly. Okay, so this is the slide I want to dwell on. So when you talk about waste, these are what we call the 7 wastes or MUDA. And when I learned this a few years back, the facilitator taught us that to remember all this, I know most of us it's not easy to remember, but remember a worm, and the concept is worm pit. That word, the acronym, it's worm pit. So if you remember that worm and that worm pit, that will tell you all the 7 ways. The W obviously standing for waiting. Waiting is a waste. Production, overproduction in this case is a waste. Motion is a waste. Processing, overprocessing, and inventory, transportation and rework. These are the 7 ways that we try to identify and eliminate from the process. This 5S is also a common one. I just want to go into the detail. What does the S on the 5 step? It is what the organization uses to organize things and declutter mostly on the shop floor. And all you do in terms of the concept is the sorting. So you sort out things. There's a concept that everything has a place and there's a place for everything. Then you stabilize, and then the shining is when the cleaning and the organization really takes place. Standardization to ensure that every time if you take out something and use it, you know exactly where to put it back. And then the last part is where you sustain all that. So those are the 5 S's again in detail. Necessary items are removed, and those ones, so that is where we sort out things. The sweeping or the shining is where we eliminate any dirt, dust. So that's the actual cleaning. And I already spoke about standardization to ensure that there's a special, items are stored properly or correctly, so that when removed, one knows where to take them back to. And then the sustaining, ensuring that there's discipline to maintain all that. So I thought I'll focus on 5S because it does apply a lot in a non-production environment. Pokayoki is what we call a mistake proofing. It means that you prevent any error from happening. It's a concept that is used a lot in the production environment, but it does help a lot, or rather is also used in a non-production environment. For example, where we have templates, this PDF dynamic forms, instead of people typing in, you could also have something that checks whether if it's a numeric field and someone puts alpha, it does throw out an error. This we do to ensure that errors are picked up and do not go out to the customer out there, especially where documentation is involved. Okay, I'm trying to rush so that I can cover a lot of the things that I wanted to cover here before my time is up. So I want to end with the lean teams. So this, no tools required, but this is just how we organize ourselves in terms of ensuring that we can implement lean from the onset. So I already said this is where we group people, and so that they can start implementing some of these lean methodologies. And okay, let's get into the detail, what the team looks like. So the team will be identified, will be from different departments or different area within the organization. The mandate is clear. Remember, the mandate with lean is all about identifying waste and eliminating it. So in terms of the mandate here, it could be we are looking at this specific area in the process or in the organization in terms of eliminating that waste. In terms of information that will be provided to the team in terms of explaining their responsibility on the role itself in terms of what the team needs to achieve. And then the team will carry on with the task or exercise of identifying waste. Remember, I said the methodology believes that the colleagues that are closer to these processes are the one who can assist in terms of picking up what are waste and what could be removed. There is also what we call who is also responsible for supporting the team. And then what is key is continual engagement with the team to ensure that whatever they pick up is being elevated to the management level, where things, if change is required, it will be approved and then implemented. These are not big teams, so it shouldn't be more than 9 people in that. People who are already motivated and they would know what to do, and there should always be someone who is coordinating. So the aim, like I said, is to go and identify waste in terms of the mandated area, the area of responsibility or the area that the team would have been assigned to. And it's what we, in most organizations, we refer to as idea, what do you call this, like idea generation. I know there are schemes that gets awarded. So this is also part of the Kaizen technique, which is continual improvement. So a lot can be achieved by just starting what we call lean teams, giving them tasks, but it's very important. Training will be required in terms of the 7 ways. What is a waste? How do you identify it? And then they start on the task of going through the organization, identifying that. Hey, this is where I'm going to stop. The main focus was on the 7 wastes, and I think we managed to cover that, and also the origin of lean. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Suzane. And you know, sometimes when we start off, we think 20 minutes is long for a presentation, and then you start going into the detail, and all of a sudden one realizes it's actually a short time, especially if it is important and interesting content. I want to encourage the participants, please, to post your questions to Dr. Sazane's presentation. So maybe if there's anything that you think she has just skipped through, you can base your questions on those concepts that you'd like her to go into maybe and spend a little bit more time when she responds to your questions. Then without further ado, I am going to move on to our second presenter, Mr. Mdabe, and ask him to then use his 20 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Mdabe.
Thank you, Program Director, and thank you also for the opportunity to allow me to come and present. Hopefully the presentation is visible. Just gonna put it on slide mode. I'm just gonna be taking you through the practicalities of lean management, how we've managed to implement it in our department, or should I say the then department, and also how did we manage to then apply all of these techniques, of which some of them were really mentioned from the previous presentation from Dr. Sisane. I'm just gonna brush through one of those as well, just to not trying to avoid maybe repeating the same thing over and over, because these techniques are mostly common. So I'll be taking you guys through the definition and also how it started, or the department that I was working for, and then the lean value adding and waste tools, and also process improvement methodology applied by the time. Starting with the definition, not dwelling much on the definition as well, but key to note here is that 2007, the Carlo said that whether you work for a government agency, small business, large corporate, hospital, school, or any other organization, your company exists to provide value to the customer. So I'm echoing the same sentiment that whatever we're doing here in Lean, we're making sure that the customer is always happy by trying by all means to eliminate wasteful activities. Back to the example of the previous speaker again, that this lean management originated from Toyota, where they were saying that on their strategy, they're saying brilliant process management is their strategy. So we're saying that we get brilliant results from average people managing brilliant processes. So the key here, the key take home here is the management of the brilliant processes. When they were saying again that they observed that their competitors often get average or worse results from brilliant people managing broken processes. So what's key here is that as long as your process is effective and efficient, you're bound to get brilliant results. Similar example from the KFC scenario that was presented from the previous speaker, that as long as your process is efficient and effective, it's irregardless whether you're getting brilliant people or average people, but you're about to get brilliant results. Moving on now to how it's all started from the Department of Justice. The then director in 2014, he done an MBA research dissertation on lean management somewhere in Seshego. It was called Seshego Magistrate Court in Limpopo, whereby he identified those challenges in terms of maintenance, payment delays, where he was outlining a problem statement on an unacceptable slow administration and disbursement of child maintenance monies, whereby then he cited that it took an average of three hours as opposed to the 3-hour service standard that you normally see on your Batopelo charts. And also identified that instead of these monies being paid within 4 days, it was taking an average of 60 to 90 days. So you could imagine someone waiting for his money after 4 days, only to find out maybe that same amount is going to be on his or her account after 60 days. So that's when it all started. Then they've realized that from this research, then it's also triggered that they have to establish a unit that's going to be responsible for managing lean management. So from Seshego, then they decided to pilot this methodology to each and every province in the country, whereby there's one court that is implementing the methodology, and then that's where we've got to be hired as well. And then moving on to the next slide, just to show you what happens in the workplace. So all in all, what we're trying to do here is to transform input into output. So whatever happened in any organization exists really to provide output, but through transforming inputs. So my scenario today I'm going to be taking you guys through is for the family courts in the Department of Justice. So what's going to happen here is that what was happening here was that you find a situation whereby the right of the child is to get support from both parents. So for whatever reasons, you find out maybe another parent decide not to provide or not to support the child, then the other parent has a right to go to court and then request maintenance from the other parent. So that's what was normally happening in a family court. So in that scenario, you use your equipment, you use people from the court that will be assisting you, your clerks, your maintenance investigators, and so forth. Then the client or the customer themselves will be there then to provide information like your ID, who's the father, and so forth. So then they will exist to provide value or output to a particular client. And then in this case, the output is the actual payment of that amount, which is a maintenance order, be it maybe it's a garnish order from the company, or maybe it's a direct payment to the actual bank account. But it was done in such a way that the amount supposed to be sent to the court's banking details, and then the court will allocate the amount to the actual beneficiaries or the mothers of those children. So throughout the process, you should note that there's going to be value creation, and also there's going to be waste that might have be able to occur. So we exist there to assist in terms of waste elimination when we're applying lean methodologies. And then moving on to the why waste do exist, then also how we expect the process to flow. From those boardrooms or from those plenary meetings, our organization will plan and think that process is supposed to be flowing smoothly, as you can see here in this pipeline, whereby they were supposed to be having new application, court hearing, monthly payments. So this is the boardroom agreement. This is the SOP. That's how it's supposed to be happening. But in real scenarios, you should realize that there is those blockages that exist, which then now we call them the waste that need to be eliminated. So moving on to another practical demonstration whereby we're identifying the waste in the organization. As you can see on the right-hand side, the picture here of a court building whereby these citizens are there to collect their money or inquire about their payment. So in this scenario, realize that there is a queue on the right-hand side, of which now I don't think these citizens woke up in the morning in their comfortable bed to come here and wait. So for them, that doesn't create any value. So they are here just to get that particular service. So in their scenario, in their perspective, it's like a waste from their side. So that's why we are here. Maybe when we are doing lean management, trying by all means to eliminate those waste and make sure the customer themselves are happy. That's where now we provide a value to the customer. Looking at this picture as well, just to show that value and waste doesn't exist only from the customer's perspective. It also does happen in-house, or rather inside the office or internally. whereby you find employees walking around with files, trying to also implement these their SOPs or their processes. But then these wastes do exist. Like, for example, the waste that occurred here is a movement waste or motion waste, whereby now the time he walks from this desk to that cabinet, it also takes the time. The same time that the customer is waiting for, the same time that the citizens are waiting for their services, but for whatever reasons, these things have been affected throughout the process, but internally, not visible from their side. I'm not gonna dwell too much on this waste because the previous speaker again did mention this waste, but I'm just gonna maybe take you through some examples. For example, an error mistake, one of the ways that might occur, whereby you're having mistakes like wrong ID numbers, and then you have mistakes such as like duplicates, queuing, resource, movement, over processing. With regards to over processing, it's a situation whereby you are working in an ineffective way, like writing the same client's information in different forms several times. A typical example, when I was doing a prostate cancer screening, I think 2 weeks back, I realized that I wrote my name, my surname, and my ID number almost 4 times, but it's the same ID number, it's the same name. And even if I were to write it the 4th time, the 5th time, the 6th time, it's gonna be the same. Nothing much will really change here. So those are the kind of ways that are occurring because it's the same name. Why don't you then now capture it once and then be able to replicate it throughout the process? But then for whatever reasons, it's part of their processes. Just to show another demonstration, I think this slide looks similar to the previous one, where the previous speaker was saying that it's a part to value, whereby you are classifying these activities to determine whether which ones are value, which ones are non-value adding, which ones are actually the actual waste. So what we've done here is that we find ourselves in a situation whereby in an 8-hour shift, you have to classify your activities, classifying them firstly to determine which ones are value adding, which supposed to be increased, and then which ones are non-value adding but necessary that need to be minimized. So in my example that I've experienced 2 weeks back about that prostate cancer screening, I realized that me writing my name four times might be necessary from their side, but it doesn't add value from my side. So it have to be minimized. Then the last one, it's about waste that need to be eliminated totally. So I also seen that the previous speaker spoke about the lean toolkit or toolbox. We also implement a similar approach that the different tools are existing. And then it's just a matter of you choosing which one's going to be mostly applicable to your scenario. So we also have those lean improvement toolbox that might be implemented to fix the problem. But throughout the journey of you fixing the problem, we have also to go through the stages of problem solving and improvement. But key to note here is that we must never jump to conclusion, but build recommendations on facts. So we have to really understand what's really is the as-is situation or the current situation, whereby you have to go see and then clarify your purpose, map the process. That's when now going to be easy for you to know the step-by-step that have been involved in any process. And then most importantly, the recording of data, because that's when now you know whether are you improving or not improving. A typical example is that if you want to lose weight in your body, it's difficult for you to know whether are you losing or not losing if you don't weigh yourself, whether are you at which kg currently, and then have that particular goal to say, I want to go to this particular weight, then you must apply those implementations that you might recommend for you to be able to lose weight, be it you are panting or maybe you are joining a gym or whatever the case might be. Then obviously you investigate and then come up with those improvements. A typical example under the notion that you have to find the root cause of a problem must never jump to conclusion. A scenario here like this that you might find yourself maybe in this scenario whereby you're swimming and then you realize that there is a crocodile heading to your direction, but now already you can see the problem is already coming from your side, but you have to then now determine as to what the real cause of the problem in order for you to avert the situation. So in most cases, these root causes might be hidden. You might see the actual symptom, but can't see the actual root cause of the problem. So in this scenario that we've faced on that implementation of lean management in the 9 provinces, in all of them, you realize that there is long queues, which is the actual symptom of the problem. There is short of supply. Perhaps maybe there's delays in terms of payments and so forth. Then you can see there's a problem that does exist, but you cannot really see the root cause of the problem. That's where now you have to implement or apply those toolkits or toolbox in order for you to come up with improvement and be able now to uncover those hidden waste and then the source of waste, and then try by all means to uncover those obstacles that prevents the process to flow effectively and efficiently. And then this is the Gemba walk as well. I think that was mentioned before. That's the best way to improve any process, is to go down to the ground and be able to see and observe and allow those employees down at the ground to be able to come up with improvement and recommendations. Then you're gonna be able now to measure and see whether are you heading to the right direction or the wrong direction. Another example of 5S, I think this was mentioned before again. If you can see this picture here, you can see a file which is full of a lot of information that might confuse anyone, can also confuse someone who's new in an organization. But after the implementation of the 5S, you might see that the file might be a bit reasonable in terms of reading it, a bit reasonable in terms of understanding what's really happening there, or you're going to be able to implement your part. So comparing the two pictures, you realize that this one is much more simple or easier to understand or be able to implement through the implementation and application of the 5S methodology. Just to show you now the practical example that we embarked on, we embarked on a journey which we're calling it the A3 process improvement, whereby we were tasked to stay to that particular province for the whole 5 days, whereby from day 1 up until day 4, we are busy trying to come up with background, current situation, goals, analysis for process improvement or lean improvement. Then on the 5th day, then it's the time for whereby we have to then now present to the management of that particular court, so that they're going to be able to provide those buy-in and also implement some of these implementation plans. So throughout the process, I'm just going to make one example. I might have many, but just for the sake of time, whereby we've done one process improvement in the, I think this one was at Umhlanga Magistrate Court somewhere in Mpumalanga, whereby there was challenges as well in terms of waiting time and also the payments of maintenance beneficiaries. So you had 2 teams, whereby one team was responsible for reducing the client waiting time by 60% in the maintenance administration, and the other team was responsible for reducing the delay between monthly payment, monthly maintenance deposit by employer until payment to the beneficiary by 45%. That means that when the employer deposit the amount of money or a garnish order has been deposited to the court's account, then it's supposed to be transferred to those beneficiaries. It might be more than one beneficiaries. They have now to know as to who supposed to be getting what amount of money. So they're trying to reduce that particular process by 45%. Then that was the actual goal. But then once you have the goal, it's easier now for you to know what exactly are you trying to solve. Where are you trying to find those ways that might persist within the process? Then the first step that we were going to do or we've done was to chart down the process flow or process chart, whereby we might be there to assist them in terms of how are they going to be going about identifying the process itself, and then assisting them in terms of identifying those waste. So at the end of the day, you
Mr.
might find
Mdabe, sorry, you've got 5 minutes left there.
Okay, thank you for the heads up. I think as well we had some process improvements such as spaghetti diagram, whereby you have to check all of these movements in terms of the clients when they're entering the courts building up until they leave the building. So throughout the process, you have to now measure, as I said before, the most important part is the measurements part, whether you have to know is there any improvements or are you going toward the opposite direction? So this is an example of the waiting time surveys, worksheet that we've been using, whereby we're tracking from the entry of the particular client up until the exit, whereby we're tracking it, so how long does it take, and then how best can we ensure that at least the time is being minimized and the value's been added. Allow me to jump at this slide for the sake of time. And then we also implemented this root cause analysis diagram, which is called a fishbone diagram, whereby we are trying to looking at the actual problem and then try to determine as to what the root cause of that particular problem by classifying it into different M's, which to call it 6 M's, whereby under machine you have to determine as to what the root cause, what contributes towards the actual delay. For example, here it was the poor network, whereby now it has an impact in terms of the delays in terms of maintenance. Moving on to the brainstorming, once now you have your fishbone diagram charted on your visual board, then we allow employees themselves to come up with these suggestions, allow employees themselves to come up with those recommendations, allow them to articulate and show you which ideas are much more suitable to solve the problem, allow them to even give you those craziest ever ideas, and then you'll be able to chart them down in a form like this, whereby you classify the waste and then you determine that particular waste and then root cause of a particular waste, and then coming up with recommendations. I won't dwell too much on that one as well. For the sake of time, just this is also a picture of those weekly meetings whereby they are trying to come up with recommendations and also trying to fix any problem that might exist. So the most interesting one, which is the last part of my presentation, just to show you how the lean management methodology has improved the court operations. Looking at this graph, as I said before, that this was implemented in all the nine provinces, one court each, whereby then we had to do this lean management implementation improvements, and then allowing employees to come up with the recommendation that's going to assist them to better their processes. So if we're looking at this diagram now, so I'll take you through, for example, another court which was called Utabelo, whereby the target was 4 days or below in terms of payment of those maintenance monies. But previously, if you can see this graph here, it was taking them almost 10 days, even above. Then after the improvement or during the improvement as well, it went down to below 4. Another typical example of Kwamhlanga, of which the target again was 4 days. At some point, yes, it would go above the targets due to for whatever reasons, but the main aim here is to make sure we reduce and make sure we are below the actual standard. And then Kwamhlanga, by the time before the actual implementation, it was more than 8 days, so it was reduced to 4 days. Another typical example of Molopo Court somewhere in the Northwest, whereby this was the actual target, the 4 days, but at some point, yes, it would go higher than the actual expectation. But then if it goes higher, then those weekly meetings or monthly meeting might be there to assist in terms of identifying those bottlenecks that might exist and coming up with recommendations. If you can see, Molopo before was around 7 days or 8 days. Another example again of Philippi that was also improving, went below the 4 days, but as well started above the 4 days. And if you can see previously, it was around the 4th day, but there was those improvement. Then the last one, somewhere in Limpopo, Toyando, which was consistently below the 4 days turnaround time, of which before it was really above 6, which is around 7 days in terms of the payments. Then I think the last slide, just to share the successes of lean projects conducted. We also received some couple of awards like your productivity essay awards on this implementation, and we also managed to reduce the client's waiting time to those piloted courts. As I was saying, per province they were piloting 1, and then after some time, then they added 2, and then we also managed to go to other courts. And then there was some maintenance reinvestment payouts meeting the standard time to those piloted courts. And then we also were requested to assist the master's courts in terms of turnaround time on their payment of their invoices. And then we also requested again to do lean management in the Justice College, whereby we're enhancing the coordination training process that was taking some time as well. As I'm saying that we had different tasks or different projects. I could have shared all of them, but due to time, that's brought me to the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mdabi. Much appreciated, and especially showing us the different examples where actually you have implemented it in the practice. I will then immediately move on to Ms. Augustus, and for her then to share her presentation. Just a kind request, Miss Augustus, if you are going to use your cursor, maybe to use it just a little bit more definitive, because if it moves around too much, it can be a bit distracting. Thank you so much, Mr. Augustus. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I really appreciate it. And thank you to all our speakers for setting the scene. That was a wonderful introduction regarding lean and the theory around how it can be used. So my name is Aisha Augustus, and I'm within the Red Tape Reduction Unit in the Department of Economic Development and Tourism. Just a bit of background in terms of where we find ourselves. So lean management has been part of our journey for many years. We then moved into a space of looking at, with our mandate and the Growth for Jobs strategy, how can we as a red tape reduction unit embed lean management within our own strategy, and seeing that it is also aligned with our current provincial strategic plan in terms of innovation and culture, to reduce waste and help build capabilities to professionalize the Western Cape government and drive citizen-centric growth. And something that we found to be really key in that was, how do we talk about lean management within the space of making it easier to do business, aligned to our Growth for Jobs strategy and what we are trying to achieve, respectively, within our provincial strategic plan. So just some context where we find ourselves for those who may not know. The red tape reduction unit is comprised of different themes, and we approach reducing red tape within the province via various streams. So we approach it via regulatory reform, we improve government systems and procedures. We also have direct interventions via a case management system and a dedicated business support helpline. And then we've also added a link regarding ease of doing business culture and communication. So what we found within the Western Cape government was, it's not enough that we're looking at all these approaches to reduce red tape, but it's important that we also look at the culture that we are creating that enables our ability to reduce red tape. And thus the ease of doing business culture and communication was added, and we found that the lean management stream fits in well within this space. So just a little bit deeper, what we did, we looked at it from a strategic perspective, and we included this within our Growth for Jobs strategy. And one of our milestones that we actually had within our strategy was, how do we implement a capacity building toolkit for officials? Now, our previous two speakers spoke about that toolkit, so I'm very happy to continue that golden thread in terms of how we similarly looked at that. How do we then institutionalize it, and then see how we can create this culture of reducing waste and creating a capable state? So you may ask, why an ease of doing business culture? Well, we found ourselves in a space where our economy was just not growing fast enough. And with a alarming unemployment rate, we knew that we needed to do something. We needed to increase our advocacy and our partnerships, to work transversely across all departments, to thus make it easy to do business, but also drive a culture of citizen-centric service delivery. And that actually led us to continuing our journey to build capability to reduce waste. And I will be taking you through our journey as the Western Cape government regarding our lean transformation process. So as you know, everything starts with data. And we had some data in around 2020, 2021, and we asked staff what were some of the barriers to becoming citizen-centric. And staff really felt that red tape was about 62% of, the barriers for them creating more value for citizens. And then we asked them, okay, so what do you need more of? And our officials spoke, and they said, we need more collaboration and partnerships, but we also need to look at how do we provide more skilled and motivated officials to thus drive that citizen-centric service delivery. It's not enough that we know what to do, but we need the skills to enable us how to do it. And thus we looked at the data and we thought to ourselves, okay, This data is really interesting because it's telling us that we have problems within the space. And as our previous speaker spoke about Toyota, I found this to be very insightful. So Daiichi Ono, who started Toyota, speaks about the fact that problems are treasures. And when we looked at the data, we came back as a team and as a unit, and we said, so how do we use this data and the survey feedback from our culture to thus look into innovative solutions to give them the skills that they need to thus reduce the red tape and become problem solvers themselves. And this was just a little bit synopsis of what our approach was. So we started off 2017, very exploratory, seeing how lean is going to land within the space. We then went through a phase of implementation. We went through a phase of learning and pivoting, and I am going to go into a bit more detail. And then finally, we looked at a way to use all this information and learnings and insights to thus drive the partnerships that was going to make the service delivery model possible. And once again, everything that we've learned, our entire journey has been underpinned by surveys. We did surveys constantly. We spoke to people. We sat in every classroom. We really engrossed ourselves within the space and the culture of the Western Cape government to try and understand what were the capabilities and how did officials feel about lean management and moving that forward within the Western Cape government space. And so, as I've said, on our exploratory mission, we've been on this journey since 2017, but there was very little buy-in as well as very little awareness. There was also very little knowledge around public sector cases, and we were very familiar around lean within the private sector, but not as much in the public sector. So then we continued our implementation where we had 6 Western Cape government departments where they nominated 1 or 2 officials to attend the training program. And then every representative used the tools to apply it to a citizen-centric process as well as service that would thus show improvements by reducing waste in a direct manner that you could visually see and visually understand what that value will be for citizens. And then through this process, we, of course, continued to listen and we learned and we understood and we iteratively continued our own journey of continuous improvement. But of course, there will always be resistance. We were advocating, but there was still very little buy-in from many departments. And we also had to take the time to understand, so what is it that we can do better? So we sought to continue our advocacy and share the value of lean for citizens and service delivery. One of the major lessons that we learned as the Western Cape government was that nominating single officials was not a conducive or sustainable process. We needed to work with process owners to understand
Mr. Augustus, I think we've lost you. Coulson, can you just check with her, please?
Sure, will do, Dr. Miller. It seems that we have lost her completely. I don't see any activity on her mic. Shall we maybe give it a few minutes or stop? I can stop sharing and then we can continue.
Yes, just please contact her. She may not be aware that she's been kicked out. In the meantime, while Coulson is doing that, could I ask Dr. Sasani and Mr. Mdabi to kindly share their presentations for us, please? If you can send it to Coulson, she will put it in the chat. And then I think there we already have 1 or 2 hands up. I'm trying to see the hands. Ms. Makwenazi? Is your hand still up? I just want to make sure. Okay, if Ms. Makwenazi's hand is not still up, I'm going to just close my video because I've got some questions that I maybe, or Mantha, would you like to pose those questions, please, from our side? Just one or two to Dr. Sasani and then one or two to Mr. Mdaba. If Ms. Augustus comes back, then we will continue with her. Over to you, ma'am.
Thanks, Dr. Miller. The first question for Dr. Tisani is around lean fundamentals. So based on your experience, what is the most common misconception about lean in the public sector, and how should organizations like National School of Government address it? That's the first question. And the next one is around application of tools. Is how can simple tools as MUDA, 5S, and PDCA be adapted to office-based environment like ours, which are based on training, procurement, and curriculum development within the NSG? Thanks. Dr. Miller, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. I'm just saying, whilst Dr. Sazani is looking at her questions or checking her questions, maybe we could also just pose the 2 or so questions for Mr. Mdabe, and then we go back to Ms. Sazani. And then we will just use the 20 minutes as indicated on the program for Q&A. And please, colleagues, I will also just check your hands.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Miller. We've got 2 questions for Mr. Mdabe, and the first one is around implementation experience. Your department has implemented Lean successfully. What were the key enablers that made implementation possible in a government environment? That is the first one. And then the second one is around challenges and mitigation. What resistance did you encounter during your Lean rollout, and what strategies did you use to overcome this resistance? Thank you. Dr. Miller, you're on mute.
Thank you, Maintha. I see Ms. Makwanazi, you can unmute yourself if you have a question. And for the other colleagues, I will ask Kulsum to unmute you. But I don't see any other further hands. Thank you, Dr. Sasani. Over to you then.
Thank you, Program Director. I'll put my video on. So on the first question on the, I think it's very important that when we sell it as when the decision has been made to implement, it's very important what we sell to the colleagues. There was a slide that I showed that said Kaizen, we must be very careful that when we sell it, it's not innovation. There's certain concepts that when people hear, like innovation, they think, oh, more with less. They're going to replace us. They're going to be job cuts and job losses and all that. So I think it's very important that when we communicate, the intent is very important, and it must be understood. And also from the onset, inviting the colleagues to say this methodology can only be successful if it's a journey. But if you are on board, it can only be successful when the colleagues are on board. What we tell them is very important. What Lean is not, it's not a it's not a method or an excuse or a justification rather to cut jobs. But people are very sensitive out there because of what they've seen in organization. When you want to do these things, we come up with these fancy methodologies and you say, we can do more with less, we don't need you. So what we sell is very important, and just to ensure that the colleagues are onboarded and they are part and parcel and feel that they are part and parcel of the journey. And on the second one, on the tailor-made, I want to say there's been a lot of work done on these methodologies. It's true that some of the tools are very production environment orientated. However, I promise you, if you do research, there's a lot of work done in the service industry, including government. What is key is that for your material training, material development, that you involve people that are working with these processes, working on the shop floor, include them to come up with those good examples. If I'm an outsider and I'll come and assist, I will only use examples of case studies that I am aware of or I'm familiar with. But when you include people as part of material development, it's very easy to come up with relevant examples. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sazani. And especially for us at the school, we would be really interested in this around just how do we spread the practice of using lean methodologies. Coulson, before I continue with Mr. Mdabe, I'm just checking in with you around Ms. Augustus.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to get her back online. Thank you, Dr. Miller.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Mdabe.
Thank you once again for the questions. I think the first one with regards to the enablers that made it possible to implement lean management. I think the first departure there, it's the management buy-in. Because that's where it's supposed to start. For example, if we were going to any court, we first have to convince management first before you can even convince the process performers themselves. So once they have the buy-in, it's easier for us to be able to implement these improvement. And again, throughout the journey, they have to also be involved in terms of them giving it a thumbs up, them providing the necessary support, because some of these implementation require some financial muscles, so of which they are the ones who take those kind of decisions. But then over and above that, I think what's made it mostly successful is because of the involvement of the process owners or process performers, which is those every employees involved in the process who are the ones that are performing the process. So once they get involved, they get that entitlement or that desire to say, look, I'm looking forward to improve. I'm looking forward to see the impact towards the clients themselves. And I think with regards to the next one, I think next question was about the resistance that we have encountered. I think one typical example, I think I once presented that spaghetti diagram whereby we were walking through the client from the entry up until the exit. Throughout the process, we realized that, look, the office layouts might not necessarily assist the client in terms of moving from one office to another office. Some might get lost, some might then be frustrated and then go back home and then come back the following day and stuff. So we realized that how about then we implement a U-shape kind of a setup, and then around the journey we realized that some offices have to be moved, but then there was resistance in terms of some high-profile employees where they were saying that they are comfortable with that particular office, but now why is it now all of a sudden I have to move, or I have to then be relocated to a different office? Then the way we managed to maybe mitigate that particular challenge is that we had to walk the person through again the process, ensuring that the person is able to understand the reason behind us doing this, because it's not about us, it's not about our employees. At the end of the day, it's about the actual client themselves, the actual mothers who are supposed to be receiving this particular maintenance monies, because once we delay, then it has an impact on them, and then it has an impact again to the children themselves. They might be needing this particular money to go to school, or the reason, or whatever it might be. Yeah, those are the actual challenges that we encountered. And again, maybe the last one, because there's many, maybe the last one, when we were doing these workshops, we were sampling maybe 50% of these employees, and then some will continue doing their job as usual every day because they didn't want to stop the service delivery from occurring. So we realized that those employees who were involved in the actual workshop were the ones that are more keen in terms of implementing this lean management, whereas the others, the ones that are not involved, will have that feeling to say, look, I was not involved, it's not my project. So and so went to that particular workshop, they had a nice time, they had breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and so forth. We'll know how they will coach it in terms of them trying to not buy into the story. But then again, we had to go back and walk them through the process again to say, this is how we came about to this improvement. Hence, we're referring to that Gemba walk to say, you have to go down to the actual ground and see what's really happening. Then we're going to be able to implement these kind of improvements. So yeah, I can share a lot, but then let me just pause on those two. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbade. I'm just checking the hands. I can't see any hands at the moment. Let me just go back to the Q&A. Michelle has posted, Aisha's power has been cut and she's rejoining. I think many of us are very familiar with that scenario. So I'm just wanting to check whether Aisha is back in the room before I carry on.
Not yet, Dr. Miller.
Okay, then thank you very much, Kulsum. I will give her an opportunity to complete her presentation towards the end, because I think we all would be very interested. And so then, colleagues, without further ado, I am going to hand over to Ms. Danse to take her 20 minutes to present to us. Thank you so much, Ms. Danse.
Thank you. Just confirming, Wholesome, that you can see my screen. Is it still loading?
It's still busy loading. You're good to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, colleagues, for joining. Today, my name is Wasifa Danse. I work for the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport within the section of Heritage Western Cape as an entity within the Western Cape. And I'm just going to speak to you about, like the doctor indicated before, that this is the practical implementation of lean. And our lean journey was alongside the tape reduction unit. And it was really a journey of restoring public trust and improving operational efficiencies and strengthening how we deliver heritage regulation in the Western Cape. I hope this journey can demonstrate to you what modern citizen public administration can look like when given the correct tools. In this instance, the lean methodology system that we have implemented through our day-to-day operations as a regulator. So just to set the stage for who we are as Heritage Western Cape, we are the Provincial Heritage Resource Authority. We are responsible for identifying, protecting, and managing heritage resources in the Western Cape. Our mandate is grounded in three instruments, which is our Constitution, the Western Cape Provincial Legislature, and the National Heritage Resources Act, which creates the framework for protection. So we are a highly regulated process and have that mentality, as we always have, with systems are in place and regulations and policies are in place. So things are the way it is because the prescripts as regulators are set for us as the operators in dealing with the citizens. So we manage applications, we register heritage sites, conserve heritage, and ensure that heritage benefits present and future generations. So heritage just isn't about the past for us, it's a strategic asset for our future. When we weave heritage into infrastructure and development planning, we create projects, job development, economic stimulants that are not only functional, but meaningful, sustainable, and economically beneficial to everyone in the province and the citizen, as well as our infrastructural long-term stability as users of resources. So the context of our lean journey is we took a review of the internal application process in time using the lean lens. And we got a lot of elbowing and nudging from the red tape reduction unit in order for us to actually pursue this journey with us. So why was this important? They could see the flaws that we had, and obviously we are protective over our space and don't come into our area. You are red tape. You only see what the client is complaining about, but you're not seeing us as the implementer and the regulator as our challengers. But because we did not have that lean back in, it was hard for us to actually shift that mindset. And shifting of the mindset was a big moment for us to actually understand how lean can benefit us. So the construction and property development sector was facing a lot of job losses and economic pressure. As Aisha mentioned earlier, the jobs was stagnant or dropping within the province. And we are seen as economic driver because by issuing a permit, by issuing a decision, that stimulates the economy, not only in job creation and in the economy for us. And any delay in issuing this permit contributed to bottlenecks of development projects in the overall picture of the actual application project plan. And as we know, development applications, anyone who's worked on them knows it can take anything from a small project can be a year and a half to big projects which can take 10 to 15 years to get it actually going on a good time frame. So as part of the provincial strategic plan, particularly the growth for jobs and mobility and spatial transformation sectors within that, we looked at it from HWC as needing to transform our processes to support economic recovery while still protecting heritage resources, which we are regulated by and our mandate is ultimately. So we started with the context within the lean lens with a phased approach. Our first phase was a 2-day introduction program, intensive few days of lean principles, fundamentals, and strategies, which Dr. Sisane mentioned earlier in her presentation about the 5 S's and Toyota methods and all of those sessions. Just a high level of that, and it involved everyone from our interns to our CEO participating and actively engaging with the lean journey within that phase. Next phase we took was the actual phase 2 process, which was a 3-month methodology training process that allowed us to really work with the problem that we identified, which was trying to streamline our application process and reduce the waste that we can identify in our permitting timeframes and reduce that permitting timeframes. A lot of the issues that we could see were based around regularization and the process of government being, this process of constant red tape within itself. So looking at it from each level of where we are as a team, from administrative processes to effective decision makers as professionals in the heritage sector to actually getting a signature. We looked at each person's role in that project and where are we duplicating and wasting time by movement, digitization of processes, all of those things that Dr. Sisane mentioned was actively worked through into that phase 2 approach. And the shift in mindset during that was such a valuable tool for us to actually implement and able to engage actively with it. And because it came from a ground level, from interns, administrative workers to our professionals, everyone had a say in the journey and the process. So everyone took ownership and responsibility of your role in the bigger picture of delivering a permit to your client, which is our citizen. Let's go down. Oh, jump there. So as I mentioned, we play a role within the broader development ecosystem. We're not just a regulator, we are a catalyst for development. efficient heritage decision making can unlock and projects and support job creation and stimulate local economies. That's why the journey with the RETAP team and the broader province is so essential for us. And our lean journey is an example of how public service entities can shift from compliance driven to solution driven. So in our journey within the phase two, we did those things and we began with our clear problem statement where it takes 15 days to process an application. These causes delays in issuing permits and frustration to applicants, which is our citizen. And we asked ourselves that critical question without taking it personal, without being concerned about oh, my job is now on the line. How do we reduce the lead time without compromising heritage protection and ensuring that our mandate is still protected? This is a question that guided our process mapping, our data collection, and our workflow analysis. So we use various analysis and observations. We analyze every step using those stack times, the rhythm at which the application flows must function to meet its demand. This allowed us to identify where work was piling up, where decision making slowed down, and where we were overburdened or underutilizing our staff's capacity and their capabilities. That's important also to ensure that you don't have stagnant staff who are doing a job where their creativity is stagnant because of the job role and function. If somebody puts up their hand to do something and it's the first time they're doing it, don't be afraid to fail and let them actually learn from that. It empowers them at the same time. These insights were essential for us to understanding these normal and abnormal workflows in our process. So the value stream mapping, this is just the value stream mapping that we identified and looked through. As you can see, the color coding, we went through the value stream mapping exercise, visually displayed the end-to-end process of the application time. And it made those inefficiencies and problems that the client was complaining about visible to us on a graphical display and not the email complaint or a call of a disgruntled person. And we could see instantly the duplication of steps where there's unnecessarily approvals required, manual tasks, which were also manual tasks also sometimes creates problems with the repetitions there, the information gaps in waiting times where the client is actually getting a value service. So on our visual map, there was only 3 identified tasks that were value added to the citizen, but numerous delays that they would be seeing. A lot of these are perceived delays by the client, although they are regulated, they must be taking place and they form part of your risk analysis as part of a government agency. So we look at also how do we fit into our overall systems within the Western Cape government's annual performance tasks, our risk planning, and how do we change those things? We are the controllers of those systems. We set our risks for us ourselves. So why are we setting up risks that allows us to fail? So let us see how we can improve that using our VSM, and not only for our permitting system, for our other systems as well, amongst the things that we are doing. So the impact for the lean journey with Heritage Western Cape and through the red tape reduction team, it really helped us to build thinking people, staff who understood flow processes, waste elimination, and continuous improvement. And that was important for us. It was everyone, and I think Aisha cut off when she was talking about and she just mentioned the part of the groupings. It was the entire team. It wasn't just our CEO and directors going through the training. It really was everyone. And some key aspects that we learned through these process was the digitization of applications, which we've now fully gone digital with. We have an online 24 hours 7 application system that you are now able to log your application. You can see application data from previous applications. You can do analysis as the client before even submitting to us. And for us as decision makers, we can instantly track time. When did they log the application? How long has it been within the system? How long is the case officer taking? Is there a uniqueness into why this is taking longer than it should? Is there controversy surrounding it? Has the case officer dropped the ball? And we can easily pick that up. And we, as the management team, can then go to the official and really understand where is the problem, because we as a team, you as the official implementing the lean process for us and the flow process, have identified it and walked the journey with us. So come to us so that we can discuss it and look at ways that we can improve the stuff. The streamlining of committee processes. So we have committees who take decisions on our applications. We've streamlined that into an online system. Parties, because we cover the entire Western Cape, parties would need to come to our office in Cape Town, and they need to sit there for an entire day. So if you're coming from Prince Albert or George, that additional cost for you to be here for the day is it adds up. Sometimes we don't even have a chance to look at the application. We need to first do a site inspection. So all of those process for streamlining each function of the application was reduced. Where we try to look at applications ahead of time and try and do the site inspections and inform the applicants not to and to anticipate a delay with it, because we will be doing a site inspection to better inform our decision making. And we are doing this using evidence-based decision making, using the A3 problem solving methods that we have, the SMART goal settings, better coaching and mentoring within our team. We have very strong team cohesion, and importantly for me is the psychological safe environment for problem solving. Staff would come to you with a problem, and they would have already worked out through their lean understanding and techniques and skill sets with the solution already. And that makes your role as the mentor in the process being more effective, because you're not having to go through the system with them. They've already solved the problem through the process of leaning their issue and coming to you with their solution. And all of these contributes to us as a efficiency for ourselves, and obviously then better service to our citizens. So our work into the with our lean and our operations as HWC serves directly into the public service operational framework. Our lean journey aligns with the four quadrants of the OMF. These are operation strategies. We now have a clear commitment to predictable citizen-centered regulation, operations design, where we can modernize, digitize, and standardize processes, operations planning and control. We strengthen workflow oversight, turnaround predictability, and internal coordination and teamwork. Projection analysis and improvements. We embedded continuous improvements using data. Data is our evidence, and these are all based on lean principles. So altogether, these create a system that is more reliable, transparent, and responsive to our citizen and ourselves. So
you've got 5 minutes, Ms. Danse, sorry.
Thank you, Doc. I'm on my last slide.
No problem.
So the public trust that is the ultimate indicator of success for us, given how we were having the complaints, the red tape issues that we received, and the complaints that they've received. So the journey that we have as a success is seeing our actual citizens give us the positive feedback. The stakeholders themselves have acknowledged the improvements that they have seen, and that is great for us. Well-known architect from Gabriel Fagan Architects noted there's an increase in efficiency, strong teamwork, and skilled staffing. Another heritage practitioner that's been in the industry more than 10 years has praised the fast turnaround times and professionalism within which HWC responds. Cedar Tower Heritage Services as well highlighted digitization and accessible communication platforms, like simple things like our WhatsApp group. These are external affirmations that shows we are not only improving internal process, we are rebuilding the public perception of our institution by having reduced our red tape and implementing these lean principles to our journey. So in short, HWC's lean journey alongside the red tape reduction unit demonstrates what's possible when public institutions commits to transformation, data-driven improvement, and citizen-centered services. This has happened only through collaboration, modernization, and clear operational strategies, which we are strengthening on a day-to-day basis. We are strengthening heritage governance while still supporting the province's economic and development goals for broader citizen-centric services. Thank you, Chair. I think that's the last, I guess.
Thank you so much, Ms. Danse. Much appreciated. I am going to allow Ms. Augustus to come back in for her last 10 minutes. She's back in. And then from there, I will move to Ms. Abrams, and then we will go to our Q&A. Thanks again. Thank you so much, Ms. Danse, for that case study. Ms. Augustus, you have about 10 minutes left from your presentation, and thank you very much. And don't stress, we know exactly, we've been through these kind of scenarios very often already. So we'll give you your 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you, Wasifa, and thank you, colleagues, for understanding. So I'll just pick up where I left off, and I really want to take this opportunity to, I think, also thank our colleagues from the Provincial Training Institute that's with us here today. Without them, we couldn't actually build this partnership to scale the lean management journey, which we have since 2025. We partnered with an incredible service provider, being the Lean Institute Africa, and they are with the Graduate School of Business at UCT. So the lean management journey was listed as an innovative methodology at the Provincial Training Institute as part of the reconfiguration and future fit strategy which the Provincial Training Institute has taken on. And for them, it's all about how does the Provincial Training Institute become that enabler for Western Cape government departments and municipalities that will drive a capable state and professionalization, and thus, of course, provide better services to our citizens. And that's myself, along with Dino, who's our partner at the Provincial Training Institute. And together we had this audacious goal and North Star as partners to deliver global skills for public sector officials. And this was the value we wanted to create for them so that they can ultimately then go out and do their jobs the best they can with the tools that they have available. We set out on our journey to look at this over various phases, and I'll go into that over the next few slides, just for the sake of time. So we had cohort 1, which looked at 12 Western Cape government departments, who then each received, all of those officials, which was 154, received an accredited certificate from the Lean Institute Africa. And the value that we created here was really empowering those officials with the general knowledge and the tools for the concepts of problem solving. We really wanted to stimulate their minds to think about how can we do things better and find innovations and actually understand what is waste. We had a blend of gamification and theory, and it was really practical. Officials walked away saying that it really felt like a team building exercise because of the way that we had structured the training. We then move on to cohort 2, which was our partnership with the City of Cape Town. And the best value that we actually managed to reach with our partnership was looking at 2 process improvements for a very critical service, which was the informal trading process, which makes up a massive part of our economy. And the city officials came together to say, this is our process as process owners, as teams, as management. How do we come together to really look at what is not serving us any longer, and how can we move forward now having the tools? How do we apply the data that we have using the A3 methodology to make better decisions and to innovate and to find improvements for businesses, citizens, but also ourselves as a team? We had a third cohort which comprised of various Western Cape government departments. And essentially, every team came together to identify a process once more, using the tools, using the coaching that they've been received, to apply it to a process that will impact citizens, but also, most importantly, service delivery. Once again, the structure of the course was really practical. There was lots of learning, there was lots of fun, but it also allowed us some really great insights in data into understanding what's happening on the shop floor. What are the process owners identifying in terms of what's happening within their spaces? So we had the trainer process, and that was with our partnerships at the Western Cape Government and the Provincial Training Institute. And this was a 4-month training program. We received amazing coaching, global coaching, personal coaching from the Lean Institute Africa. And the value that we created here was in-house capabilities for the Western Cape government. It was also around how do we save costs as the Western Cape government by driving these professional capabilities for ourselves. We had our first Lean graduation in May 2025, which was an amazing milestone for us as the Western Cape government, understanding that the journey we've been on to continuously improve since 2017. We then recently just hosted our first 2-day introduction to lean management with Mossel Bay Municipality. And this is linked to a real digitization project led by my colleague Bandile Nkolomba within the Red Tape Reduction Unit, and myself as a trainer with our partner Tambi at the Provincial Training Institute really provided the grounding concepts of lean management before this entire team, or a few of them, went into the digitization process. So now that they had the concepts and the understanding of what lean management is, they were then able to apply that in terms of the project that they will embark on. And this was more recently our first 3-day introduction to lean with Western Cape government officials. It's something that we're really proud of. We actually looked at the data and the surveys from 2022, 2023, 2024, and officials really felt that we really need 3 days. So of course they were our customers and we wanted to create more value for them. And we then came together as Red Tape, led by the Provincial Training Institute, to change that into a 3-day course. This is just some of our reference letters which we received from City of Cape Town. I'm not going to go through it. I will send through the presentation. And then also just some experts from our colleagues in Department of Health, also within supply chain management. Couple of things we asked officials, so what was really valuable, and many of them felt that the most valuable part was the way in which it demonstrated these preconceived ideas can hamper one's thinking, and that evidence-based decisions are far more appropriate. Someone also said it shows the management team that they need to listen to all the staff and really realize that a lot of our work is not necessary. And again, driving that essence of psychological safety, what's happening on the shop floor, what do our process owners from the bottom all the way up, wherever they find themselves in the organization, how are we involving them and how are we providing them with a voice? And this was us as the team, ourselves with the Premier, our Chief Director, John, Director Michelle, with Dino, Adele, Lauren, and our DG from the Provincial Training Institute and the Department of the Premier. And we won silver for the Service Excellence Awards this year for our collaboration, impact, and partnership. And then just very quickly, how does this all align in terms of the public service operations management? So Wasifa spoke about it really well. But something I do want to highlight is that lean management really emphasizes the 3 Ps, which is purpose, people, and process. And all of this, when balanced really well, can create a culture of problem solving to develop the service delivery model that you would like, to improve that process, to really look at how do we do operations design, our planning, our control, and also our analysis for continuous improvement. How are we looking at the 4 quadrants in relation to people, purpose, and process? And I think if you can find that balance within your broader strategy, you will make some really good progress. Something I really like is to say you can't solve 2025 problems with 1985 tools. So we have a goal, we all have our strategies, we know what we need to achieve. What are the tools that we are using to take our teams along on that journey? How do we work more efficiently with our resources? And lean management is one of those tools in your toolbox, along with all the others that you can really use to drive innovation, drive continuous improvement, using a methodical approach, and most importantly, using data in the right way. Of course, you met my colleague Wasifa Danse, and now I will be joined by our CFO, Maimuna Abrams. That is the end of our presentation for myself as the journey, and once again, apologies. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Augustus. I'm so glad that you could get back, because I particularly was interested in the last part that you've now just shared with us around the training and the kind of training that we can do, and especially training that would be workplace based, that makes it so much more practical, and getting some ideas around how to use these methodologies in the workplace and in your practice. Without further ado, then I am going to hand over to Ms. Abrams, and she will take us through her presentations, and then I will open the floor for questions. Thank you, colleagues. Ms. Abrams, you can start sharing. Yes, it's coming. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much, Program Director. I think as you've introduced, my name is Maimuna Abrams. I just want to try and get my presentation into present mode, and why am I struggling with it?
Click on present, the top right.
Oh, there we go. And there we
And
go.
then
Are you able to see my slides?
yes, you may continue.
Okay. So as I said, good morning, everybody. And I think thank you so much for the opportunity to present our lean journey of financial manual. I think that for us as a department, our lean journey was one that unfolded organically as we embraced and continued on our path to actually improve our processes. So perhaps maybe to start off with, I think join me on a period where we step back in time, and a period where in this department we had significant delays in terms of manual processes, for deep frustration amongst project managers as well as financial management staff, significant inefficiencies because we've had these outdated systems that cause these inefficiencies, and then a myriad of problems around non-compliance. And that arose mainly from the fact that within the public sector environment, I think as we're all aware, we have a significant amount of legislation in the form of our National Treasury regulations, our Public Finance Management Act, our Provincial Treasury instructions. But what was interesting is that all of this legislation was disjointed. And what it caused was a situation where you had no standardized set of one legislation that allowed us to be able to speak from one hymn book, one standardized set of documents that actually guided project managers and financial management staff in terms of the financial policies that they needed to follow. And I think we all know when we have complexity within a financial environment, we have waste. And when we have inefficiencies and when we have project managers that is frustrated in terms of processes, policies, there's a lot of waste in the system. So what this did is it forced us to actually go and do a proper analysis, to go and look at what is the root cause that is causing all this frustration, that's impacting on service delivery delays, that is resulting in us having an increased negative service delivery environment, but also an increased governance environment that is fraught with non-compliance and other compliance risk. So that resulted in us actually analyzing the problem and then deciding amongst many other solutions, one of the areas that we needed to focus on was the development of our first A4 file, first manual, which was an A4 file, which allowed us to centralize our legislation in one easy, accessible A4 document. And this was about looking at again, as I said, the root cause analysis and defining what's the value we can bring to our customer. And in this case, the customer being the project manager. How do we assist the project manager in terms of providing them with one source of information, one document that was easily accessible, but more importantly, synthesized, looking at all the different types of legislation and allowing the project managers to be able to use that A4 file, consult with it in terms of any policy that they needed to follow with regard to financial management. And that also gave effects to our first operation strategy as defined in your OMF. But we didn't stop there.
Abrams, I am so sorry to interrupt you, but can you move your camera? Your name is right over your face. So I think you must just, there you go. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, great. So as I said, we didn't stop there. It was important for us to continuously improve our processes. And again, aligned to the Kaizen methodology, what we then looked at is that within our department, we had a manual, but the actual processes in terms of designing, how do you go about doing financial transactions? How do you assist the project manager to complete financial transactions? How do you guide them in terms of checklists? So that led to us developing our second set of tools, which is our process maps, our checklists, and our templates. And these were not just plain process maps. It was actually easily designed or simply designed process maps that was like where we used Visio to again guide the project manager in terms of a step-by-step process of how to actually complete a financial transaction. And it wasn't a thick, detailed document. It was guided in terms of graphical representations of how, if anybody knows Visio, you'd know how simplified we made it in terms of the project manager being able to then follow the process in a very simple way. And again, for us, what was important is that regularly we would update these process maps, checklists, and templates. But again, it also allowed us to remove waste from the system. Because as you design these processes, you're also able to identify unnecessary steps within the process. And it allowed us to actually reduce those steps and improve our turnaround times in terms of our annual updates and tools. Again, we didn't stop there and we moved on. Because what was important for us is to continuously improve and add value to our customer, again, which is the project manager. And our next step in our process was to actually take the manual, take the process map, take all of those guides, and print our first financial manual book. And why this was important is that it allowed us to actually, allowed the project manager to have an easy, accessible, printed book, professionally designed in a manner that they could travel with, that they could use, but also it was done in such a professional manner that it allowed them to consult the information in such an easy manner. And I think the additional value add for us is that we also printed our first process map, tools, guides, etc., all within a toolbox. And we called it the project manager's toolbox that allowed them to execute their financial transactions quite easily. All of our steps, and I think this is where it was so important for us, and where I say that our lean journey was organically developed, is that every step of our process, we ensured that the user feedback and process refinement was fed through our consultation with our project managers. So all our solutions was co-created through the feedback that we received from project managers, and we were only able to reduce the waste in our system, improve our processes through actually getting constant feedback and solutions or suggestions in terms of how to improve from the actual user of the system. And what we found over the last few years is that through our annual service that we were actually getting very high client service satisfaction rates, but also some useful suggestions in terms of how to further co-create. And as I said, what was important for us is that we had to constantly improve. And it wasn't about big bang improvements. It was about making small incremental changes to this financial manual process, which then led us to why we are here today, which is the e-financial manual. I think we recognized that it was important to move into the digital space. So with the project managers always being on traveling, but also the opportunities that the digital space allowed us, we realized as financial management, it's going to be important for us to actually enter the digital era. And that gave rise to our e-financial manual application. So the e-financial manual app is, as I said, provides digital access. So it's instant access to the project managers. They're able to access the actual FM app anywhere on the phone. There's real-time updates, so users are notified when there's changes. We've also added user-friendly templates, which is all virtual, all online. All of these templates allow the project manager to complete the information wherever they are. And then for us, more importantly, the cloud integration, which allows the user to have up-to-date information, but also more importantly, allows the user to always have the correct document. So I think what we wanted to demonstrate today, that although our journey did not start with first learning about lean, etc. It evolved, but the principles of lean was right through the development of of our financial manual, from the first A4 file right up to the actual e-financial manual, the application that we've developed. So for us, it was always about ensuring that there is value to our customer, that we have constant improvement, and our journey doesn't stop. We are constantly trying to improve. And I think what's important for us is that all of these improvements are in the pursuit of perfection. And although we've not come to the end of our journey, what I think has been our success is that we've always put our client or our customer at the center of all our developments. So the co-creation and ensuring that we are constantly adding value to our customer has really become important to us. And obviously through this journey, the giving effect to the Patupele principles, improving our service delivery, and just being responsive in terms of the needs of our customers is also something that has really been critical to us. So what has been the achievements from our lean journey? As I said, service delivery has improved significantly. We've been able to, through our service standards that we implemented, we've been able to actually measure key indicators, one being our supplier payment turnaround time, another one being our bid approval process. We've have clean audits, I think 13 clean audits, but also very minimal findings, because as you improve your environment, as you remove waste, as you improve your processes, you also find that you actually give effect to governance principles. Our committees are running a lot more effectively. There's enhanced collaboration and oversight. We have a situation where we are able to have competent, not only financial staff, but also project managers competent in terms of specifically the financial management area. And I think what has always been proven is that if you have project managers that are competent within your financial management areas, you're also able to give effect to a stronger governance environment. And as I said, it's helped us to actually set standards, but also improve on our standards. And then I think for us, just the area around integrity, just having a very sound governance environment also obviously gives effect to integrity. So we've had many successes from our lean journey. And I think for us, as a financial management unit, we've also had many successes in terms of improving our relationship with our client. If you're able to bring value to your client, you effectively build trust, public trust, and ultimately enhance your governance and service delivery environment. So I think for us, for us, the achievements has been quite significant. But maybe what I would like us to do is just, we are here to look at the e-financial manual app. So we have developed a small little video to actually look at how the e-financial manual app has been implemented and what the actual e-financial manual app looks like. So maybe just allow me 5 minutes to play a short video in terms of the financial manual app.
Lean management is now embedded in everything we do. And the eFinancial Manual is a shining example, accessible anytime, anywhere, on any device. Need a policy while meeting with industry partners? On the road? In the field? No problem. Just click, search, and go. No more delays. No more flipping through pages. Just fast, reliable financial information at your fingertips. And now, it gets even better. The eFinancial Manual includes process maps that clearly guide every finance procedure, step by step. Plus, fillable digital forms that can be completed and submitted online. No more hassle with hard copy documents. No more running around to ask how a process works. Everything you need for service delivery at the click of a button, cutting out any time wastage within the process. Even better, delegations are now easily accessible in the eFinancial Manual. You'll know exactly who is responsible for each process, per threshold. No need to search for delegation documents or worry about whether you have the latest version. It's all there, accurate and up to date, at the click of a button. This innovation means quicker turnaround times, better compliance, and credible financial communication, whether you're engaging clients, stakeholders, or industry players. The future of financial management is here. It's lean, it's smart, it's mobile, it's yours.
Okay, so that just gives you a bit of a graphic format in terms of what the financial manual is about. I think, again, as I said, the financial manual journey for us was a real transformative journey in terms of applying the lean principles. And I think as well as looking at what OMF is trying to achieve, perfectly aligned to that. But more importantly, as I said, it's turning governance into a driver of efficiency, compliance, and trust. I hope you enjoyed my presentation and I was able to give effect to what we're trying to achieve today. I just want to say that I think today's presentation or the whole day today really, I'm quite excited about the journey that we are embarking in. And I think you are instilling a lot of trust for us as a public sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Abraham. Such a absolutely insightful presentation, because I think for us at the school, it is always about how, as I said at the beginning, how do you translate the theory into practice, and then to be able to demonstrate how the theory has been implemented and eventually or ultimately institutionalized in the practice. I'm going to open up the Q&A. I will allow first, I'm checking the hands, if there are any hands from our participants, and Kulsum, you and Dash, you can also help me check. Then I will hand over to Mantha that has been fielding the questions, and maybe she could just look at the different questions for each of our last three presenters, because Ms. Augustus wasn't here in the first round of Q&As. And then I'll go for the first round for the three presenters, and then I would appreciate if all five of you will switch on your cameras, because I will then also call for a second round of questions towards the end. We've got a bit of time towards the end of our webinar. Mantha?
Oh, sorry, Dr. Miller. We had a hand from Sibongile. I'm just checking if that person still wants to ask a question.
Let us first then give Sibongile an opportunity. Yes, Sibongile, go ahead, please. Did you unmute her?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this session. It has been a very informative session. I'm Sibongile Jongile. I'm the CFO for the department, the same department did it in the Eastern Cape. And I'm very interested in the financial management module or document. Is it possible that it can be shared, or is it a licensed a service that you pay licenses for? If not, can we Can you share it with us? It's very informative, and I think it works well. 13 clean audits. It's a lot. I'm still on my fourth one now. Thank you very much. Sorry, Chair, was I audible?
Yes, you were audible. It's me again. I'm making the mistake. I see my camera on and then think that my mic is on already. So sorry, Ms. Jongile. Thank you. We heard your question. It was requesting around accessibility to a manual or something similar, because I assume that the manual is very much designed on the practices of the department, but we will allow the presenters to respond. Before you respond, Ms. Abrams, can I just allow Mantha maybe to also raise the other questions? And then I'm asking all 5 presenters to please put on your cameras, because there are a number of questions that we have that Mantha will guide to each one. Over to you, Mantha, please. Sorry, Mantha, you must also just read them out slowly so that the presenters can maybe just note them. Thank you, Mantha. Kulsum, just make sure Mantha is unmute, please.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Thanks. Am I audible? Okay. Thanks. The first question is for Miss Augustus. So the question is, can she highlight the key milestone in her department's Lean's journey and how this have contributed to improved service delivery and operational excellence? And the second question is for Miss Dansey. It's about her case study. Is from your case study, which practical lean intervention made the biggest impact and what measurable improvement resulted from them? And the last question is for Ms. Abrahams. Is the e-financial manual is a compelling example of lean-based digital transformation. How did the lean principle shape its design and what efficiency gains has the department observed since its implementations? Thanks for now.
Okay, so we're handing over to Ms. Augustus, then Ms. Dansey, and then Ms. Abrams, please.
Thank you for your question, Minta. Okay, so maybe just to speak about the milestones that we developed has, I think, been redefined over our journey since 2017. But one of the main things I would suggest is looking at how does lean management fit within your current strategy and your implementation plans, and really looking at your journey to track the impact over if you have a goal after a 5-year period. And then subsequently developing your partnerships around that. If you have shared, say, for example, indicators with other departments, how do you look at shared transversal indicators? That could be something you could potentially look at as well. Of course, the milestones that we achieved year on year has changed and has been incremental depending on how we pivoted our journey. So that's definitely something I'm happy to take offline with you as well. But in terms of the actual impact, I think the 2 case studies that were shared by my 2 amazing co-presenters from Heritage Western Cape and also our CFO within the department also shows how they translated the theory and the training into practice and implementation as well. And I think each of them also have their own metrics in terms of how they measured the impact based on their own service delivery models and their own service delivery plans. But I think a key milestone that I can share as part of this journey is linking it back into the institution and also looking at it from performance management and also M&E from the start right to the end in terms of what you want to achieve. What is the outcome that you would like to see for the NSG? And I think really working together with your teams to then backtrack that in terms of your context and the environment that you find yourself in. I just want to check if that answered your question, Menta.
Yes, that's perfect. Thanks.
Ms. Dansey?
Thank you. There's no particular one that's a key standout because I think we implement lean in our everyday systems once we had the tools with us. The VSM, to visually see every step and what the roles are, the time, was a great measurable thing for us, and we constantly still use that, and we said data is key, so it's a good thing for us to have the continuously looking at VSMs, because we're constantly changing our SOPs, we're constantly using that, and working documents are vital for us, so the VSM is continuously changing. So continuously going back to the process and that A3 methodology is very useful for us. It's also with our staffing changes. The I'll say the newer staff has gone on the crash course version of the lean management training that I showed them hosted at Cromeria. So everyone is from the onset indoctrinated in the lean management system. So there isn't one particular one that works. There's certain lean processes that just doesn't align for you because of the way you are operating and as a regulator. It depends on you as who your client service base is. So there isn't a one shop for everything. You have to look at what works for you, and if it doesn't, move on to the next one. And it's that continuously going through the loop and that PDCA, that cycle of this is working, how do we improve on it? And you can continuously be improving, even if it's by a half an hour to an hour, it makes an overall difference to the bigger picture of your deliverable at the end of the day. So unfortunately, there isn't one identifiable. It really depends on you as an organization, what aligns with you and your mandate for your lean journey.
Thank you so much, Ms. Dancy, Ms. Abrams, particularly around the manual.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the questions. I think Program Director, you answered the first question. It is customized for our department, but at the same time, I think we are able to share the architecture. So again, maybe we can take it offline. My colleague from the Eastern Cape can then contact me, and I'm sure we'll be able to help in terms of that. I think with regard to the second question, there are so many benefits and values that I think we were able to, or benefits at least, that we were able to achieve through the financial manual journey. And I want to start off with probably the first one is the value to the customer. So we now have a centralized, easy access financial policy and tools in one space. It's also allowed us to eliminate waste, because as you improve, and I think we all know when we digitize, it's just not about taking a manual process and digitizing it. You need to look at, it allows you to actually identify unnecessary waste within these processes. So we could actually remove a lot of steps within our financial processes through re-looking at our standard operating procedures, looking at whether we were duplicating some of these steps. And I think for me, that was probably one of the biggest learnings that we've had. And then as I said earlier, the fact that we were able to co-create. So being able to actually get project managers on board early on as we were developing our systems and getting feedback from them. Not only did it allow for buy-in, but it also helped us to co-create and build better relationships. I think anybody that's worked in a department and probably anywhere else would know the frustration that you have between the line function and financial management. And I think this whole process actually helped a lot with the co-creation part. And then for us, the greatest value has been to see how the reduction in these processes has improved our service delivery. So faster turnaround times, improved service delivery in terms of project managers now being able to move a lot faster in designing their projects, being able to deliver on their projects, and just having that buy-in in terms of the stronger and better relationship, and also the language. So there's a better understanding of the financial management language between project managers and financial management. So there's many others, but I think in highlighting a few, I think those ones are probably the ones that was probably the most impactful in terms of the implementation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Abrams. And Ms. Abrams, if you open the Q&A, Ms. Jongile posted her details there. So already the webinar achieved one of its key deliverables, and that is around networking and partnerships around learning. So I want to make the assumption that you would be in contact with her and that you would then continue that conversation. I want to invite Dr. Sasani and Mr. Mdabi, please, back also, and then we will go through the last round of questions before we close the webinar. Is Dr. Sasani still in the room? I hope she hasn't dropped off.
Please,
There
I'm
she
still
is.
here.
Thank you so much. Mantha, you can carry on then, please.
Thanks, Dr. Miller. I've got two last questions. The first one is towards Mr. Mdawe, and then the last one, any speaker can answer. So the first one for Mr. Mdawe is around replicability for NSG. What lesson from your lean journey do you believe can be replicated immediately within NSG directorates to improve turnaround times and operational efficiency? And then the last one is for all the speakers, they can answer, is in your view, how does lean support the broader professionalization agenda of the public service and contribute to restoring public trust? Thanks.
In fact, I think, Mantha, the last question, I would want to invite each of our presenters to make just a last comment responding to that question, because I think it is focusing on our core business in the public service. And also maybe to add from my side, how we use lean, and especially drawing on the work that you've done, Ms. Abrams, around even publishing a manual. How does it improve levels of accountability? And how can lean also improve levels of consequence management, for example? Because I assume that lean will give you such nice, detailed and clear processes that you diminish loopholes for public servants who actually just don't want to do the right thing. So just how do we connect these processes to accountability and consequence management, if that is a possibility? And maybe all five speakers can maybe just take a last 3 minutes or so to answer that a particular last question. So, Mr. Mdabi, let's go to you, and then I will then give everyone an opportunity to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again for the question. I think the first one with regards to the replication to the NSG, what's lesson learned. I think it's been coming through in almost 5 of this presentation that visual management, I'm referring to, whereby now we have to demonstrate visually, maybe in a notice board or a clipboard, to say this is what our goal we are supposed to be heading to, and these are the objectives, these are the decisions, these are the implementation plans, these are the recommendations, and so on. So that on its own will assist in terms of being able to replicate the idea. And then it's going to be easy then to implement any tool, be it it's a 5S, Fishbone, or even a Kaizen, whatever tool that is also applicable. It's going to be easy for employees now to be able to be reminded about what's supposed to be done. So it's like a reminder. And I think that can assist any individual, not only at work, but also in their daily lives, whereby now you're going to be reminded on your actual goal. You could imagine if in your bedroom you have these visuals that keeps on reminding you that you're waking up in the morning to change a particular situation or to improve from what you are to a better person or a better situation. And it also can assist in terms of any other improvements or any other organizational strategies, like your visions, your strategies, your goals per departments. Also, as you will see in most departments, you will see that big banner that has vision, strategy, and so forth. So once you be able to see it every day, you are able to keep on maybe memorize it in your future and be able now to live to those values and principles. Also moving at the other question about the how will lean maybe assist in terms of consequence management and accountability. Going back again to the visual management, it's going to be easy for us to see whether what went wrong throughout the process and then how best can we correct it. And then it's going to be easy for us to see as to what really causes the actual problem. If, for example, something went wrong in terms of accountability, if it's visualized and everyone can see that, look, this is where we are having challenges in terms of our processes or our service delivery, one will then have that sense of coming up with improvements, coming up with real better ideas in terms of how best can we then avert a particular challenge. Not to say it's going to be a situation of maybe naming and shaming, but at some point, yes, it will assist in terms of encouraging everyone in an organization to at least now perform their part in terms of service delivery, because at the end of the day, it's all about the customers, all about our clients, all about our patient. If it's a hospital setup, it's all about the citizens themselves. It's not really about us. So once we're able to improve the service, then obviously they are going to be the most beneficiary in terms of the actual improvement of lean management. Yeah, let me pause there for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dabe. I'm going to allow the speakers just in alphabetically, then Dr. Sasani can give us the final word. So Ms. Abrams, and then Ms. Augustus, and then Ms. Danse, and then please, Dr. Sasani, your final word. Thank you.
Okay. So perhaps I think maybe to start off with the first question. For me, I think what's important around the first question is that ultimately, if we apply the lean management principles to the entire public sector, it's going to improve service delivery. I think that is something that we recognize with all the examples and case studies today as well. The one benefit, the impact is that we improve service delivery. And if you improve service delivery, then you enhance the citizens' experience. And I think that is what Lean is able to bring to the public sector, is that we're able to also enhance the citizens' experience. Also for us is that it enhances transparency. So clearer workflows, there's visual management, there's an improvement in terms of auditing, reduction in fraud. So I think speaking to that and how that benefits again the broader public sector is an important benefit in terms of lean. I think the big one, and I see it actually daily in terms of how the financial management staff is also improving, and I listen to Ms. Danse as well, is that this continuous improvement. So we're changing our culture, we're changing the culture of the public sector because we're constantly thinking about how do we improve. So lean, I think the lean methodology almost entrenches that culture of continuous improvement. And in the same way, then it empowers employees and, as I said, builds public confidence. So for me, in terms of how lean actually could improve the public sector, I think if we look at all of those factors and all of those benefits, it is about continuous improvement, transparency, and then ultimately building public confidence. I think the last question is a very interesting one, because I think when you look at the financial management environment and you hear CFO, I think we always think consequence management and accountability. And for us, it's an important aspect, but it's what was more important for us in terms of as we embarked on our journey is to try and gain project managers' trust. But I think you're right, Program Director, the financial manual and the e-financial manual does, I want to say, improve or enhance accountability and consequence management. Because what you now have is you have guidelines, policies, processes being very clearly articulated. So it's very clear. There's no hiding behind, I didn't understand, I didn't know, because the processes are quite simple. Also, with the incorporation of our delegations, which is a big part of the financial management process, delegations also identify and assign responsibility to levels of staff. So immediately there's accountability. And if you have to exercise consequence management, which is something we really don't want to promote, but if you need to exercise consequence management, it is very easy for us to exercise it because of the transparency of the information, the lines of accountability being so clear, and being able to then identify the transgressor in terms of consequence management. So yes, the e-financial manual does allow for that, and it allows for greater transparency and obviously faster corrective action, which is ultimately what you want to move towards. Thank you.
Ms. Augustus?
Yes. Thank you, Chairperson. I think our CFO covered it quite really well, just in terms of professionalization and public trust. And there's nothing I can really add. But I think something from my perspective, in terms of when we're talking about public trust, do we ask ourselves, what does that actually mean? You know, for me, it's about citizens seeing the impact at the end of the day. They feel the value that we are creating, and they also see the process that we've gone through. So full transparency, full accountability. But something for me that really also builds public trust within the professionalization is this approach to clear data and evidence-based decision making. It's no longer about my manager decided on the process, or etc. It's about, what does the shop law say? What does the citizen say? If the citizen is saying, we don't trust you, we don't see the impact, are we listening? Are we going back and listening to what's happening? I think as CFO said, how they engage project managers and process owners and really using data. And I think that's been one of the biggest benefits for using Lean as a management system, and not just a tool, but using it as a management system to guide your teams through that culture of continuous improvement. So I think done really well, having clear standards, communicating those standards, making sure that there's no need for consequence management, because everyone feels empowered to contribute, and they feel part of this culture of innovation and wanting to serve. So I think those things done really well, you will eventually have public trust as a natural consequence of what you've created in your management system.
Thank you so much, Ms. Augustus. Ms. Danse?
Thank you. I think Aisha and CFO covered a lot of my thought process in trying to think of an answer for this. But yeah, public trust is important, especially in our field, because we work very much with people's money. The development is one day with us means R1 million not being able to be going into a project. So with the Lean system, we now have the SOPs in place. We can be transparent about what the time frames are. It's not it could take 6 months or a year. We can be very definitive because we have the data now to back up what we are saying, and your application process is also clear. A lot of our clients are reoccurring clients. They're not a once-off client. They are big-time developers who need that consistency in all the projects across the board, and they look at what their timeframes are when they go into the bank and getting those bonds and that. So that trust and reliability of our consistency is very important for us, as well as the staffing. Everyone understands their roles, because everyone has been on the Lean journey from internships to higher management. And by taking accountability of your actions, and there's no finger pointing, as one of the speakers earlier said, everyone knows what their role is, and it's okay to make those mistakes within the system, because we will then use that as a learning experience. Obviously, with our annual reports and that, we report back on these things, and because of our niche environment that we find ourselves in, those annual reports are very much scrutinized, because how do we add value? Is heritage a nice to have, or can we just forego it? So by showing that we are there to improve not only heritage management, but your greatest citizen need holistically, through Lean management, through the documentation that we can now publish, and not just have we've done 5,000 applications over the past few years. What does that actually mean to the citizen now? Okay, you've added so much jobs to the economy. You've assisted with infrastructural development. You've assisted with energy projects and all of those things. So we have now that accountability on our side also, where if we don't fulfill our jobs, the knock-on effect is there. And that is quite clear within the Lean system, visual management of everyone's roles and responsibilities.
Thank you so much, Ms. Danse. Dr. Sasani?
Thank you, Program Director. On the ensuring customer trust, I think it's embedded in the methodology itself. Remember, we said everything is focusing on the value, and value defined by what the customer is looking for. So in this case, when you talk government, looking at the citizens, so in its all, it's in Lean, the principle is that we deliver what is valuable to the customer, and as we deliver faster, better, and high quality product or service, trust automatically responds and in a very positive direction. And as we eliminate those wastes and make our processes smoother, we streamline, we see also savings that we can also pass on to the customer. And my colleagues also said it a lot to say Lean is virtual. When we talk about now moving on to the accountability part on those colleagues who are on the floor performing these activities, there is transparency. And also remember, with Lean comes empowerment. Empowerment in a form of training, and we said it's continuous, so there's always that continuous check. So people do not get to hide behind bad behaviors or bad patterns because of the continuous nature of checking where are we, do we see that improvement. So I believe that yes, Lean methodology is the best, definitely the best methodology to implement if you really want to see the customers, or rather the city meeting the value in terms of what we deliver, and also empowering the colleagues to be more accountable and responsible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sasani. I'm also then picking up on a comment that has been posted. Our challenge is to change managers and general thinking from functional management to process management. And as part of my closing remarks, maybe I would want to pick up on that. I think there are a couple of principles, I think, that the team leaves us with, apart from the theory, because all of us can go and read the theory and try and make sense of it. But I think all the presenters makes the argument that if you want to embark on the Lean management and methodology process and implementing that in your institution, that it should be, you need to get vertical involvement. And I think Ms. Danse, you said, particularly from internship, or was it Ms. Augustus, from internship right through to those who make the decisions in the institution, so that there is clear participation in the process. Then the second point that is raised, which I absolutely agree with, that we are no longer working with a concept of buy-in. So it's not like me as the specialist bringing something to the institution and others must buy into it. And it was actually mentioned here is that we are working towards co-creation. So it's not my responsibility to change the managers, but it's my responsibility to listen what they are saying, how they articulate their processes, and then co-create a different process or a new process using Lean methodologies, so that we all from the start are on the same page. So no one is buying into someone else's idea. It's about how do we share the knowledge and then create something collaboratively and jointly. So by the time that we put, for example, a manual in place, everybody's already understands what is the intention of that manual and the role and responsibility of myself as a line manager or as a business process specialist in the institution, how I take that forward. The other principle that I also think is very important is the consistent in messaging. So you can't have one message one day And even if I go 3 or 4 months later to review and update, as you argue, Dr. Sasani, still my message, my core message must be consistent, that it is around how do we address waste in the system, and waste is from time to actually losing money in the system and not servicing our customers. So in the school, we also don't use the word customers anymore. So our primary focus is around, is there evidence of the value that we bring to, number one, our citizens that we serve, or anybody that is the receiver of our services? So the National School of Government would regard public servants as the receiver of these ETD offerings, with the understanding that once you've gone through this any training or education or development initiative, that you would be able to improve the services that we deliver to our citizens. And I really like that, so that you look at what is the value, constantly evaluating, is this, by adding 2 more steps, what is the value that it is bringing to the services that we have to offer? And for me, the important part that all of you mentioned is ultimately is around the quality of services that we provide to the citizens of our country. On that note, would really want to extend our grateful appreciation to all first of all the participants who came. Hopefully, we have live streamed this as well. So again, if you want to watch anything, it will be on YouTube, and it will also be posted on the school's social media sites. We have asked all the presenters to share their presentations with Kulsum and with Mentha. If we haven't received everyone, we will follow up because everyone is asking for it, and it is really insightful, so that we can share that with the participants. And then my last point is that we encourage the networking, and so I'm already extending my hand to Dino and his team around the training and looking at how we could ultimately, through these processes, reduce the red tape in our systems, so that our systems, our processes are much more efficient. But it's like the DDG from DPSA is asking, what does efficiency mean? So it's about giving the right services at the right time within the expected timeframes, or the timeframes that we communicate with our citizens. On that note then, colleagues, I want to express my gratefulness and my thanks to the presenters for taking their time, for their preparation, and giving us the insights to this very specialized area, I need to add. And thank you once again. And hopefully this is the beginning of the conversations. Maybe the conversations will be taken into different trajectories, with individuals meeting up, and then towards mid-year, hopefully, Mantha and your team, maybe by next year, August, September, we can come back and begin to look at what has happened since this particular webinar, because the webinars is not just once-off events. We actually regard them as learning spaces at the National School of Government. Have a wonderful day, colleagues, and thank you very much once again for your time. Thank you.